from 237, and back with another review of the of Into the Dark anthology series on Hulu, executively produced by Jason Blum, but kind of Blumhouse, not really. This is the second one that I'm reviewing. It'll be the first one on the playlist since it's technically the first episode. It says Blumhouse Television, but it doesn't feel like a Blumhouse. Um, this is the third episode I've seen, along with Flesh and Blood and Delivered. And all three of those are already better than most Blumhouse films I've seen. But I can see why this one was a promising episode. There's definitely enough here to enjoy. However, I do have some of the same issues that I had with Flesh and Blood and Delivered. Only this one seems to be the only one of the three so far, or the only one so far, to incorporate elements of comedy. Essentially, half of it is this comedy. The other half is, it's horror suspense film. I was intrigued by the initial premise that it gives on Hulu, but that premise seems to be abandoned within the first act, and then it becomes this whole other movie. It actually feels like you could get two different movies out of this, one of which could probably merit the 80-minute runtime, whereas the original premise maybe not, and that's why half the film feels like it struggles. But anyway, I will get into that. It was directed by Paul Davis and written by Paul Fisher and Paul Davis, based on a short film called The Body that both those Pauls did. Now, it stars Tom Bateman as this hitman named Wilkes, Rebecca Rittenhouse as Maggie, which there was a short film spin-off of this featuring her character getting psychic powers. I didn't really have interest in checking that out, but I believe that's on Hulu as well, but I could be wrong. But yeah, she returns for that. Aurora Perino, who people might recognize from Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, which I have a big rant on. One of my least favorite films of Blumhouse, one of my least favorite horror films of the 2010s. But she does do a good job in this. David Hall and Ray Santiago. Pablo from Ash vs. Evil Dead. And he definitely provides most of the comedy. He's basically playing a Pablo-esque character like he does in Ash vs. Evil Dead, which I'm a big fan of that show, so that comedy worked for me. But, and of course this came out in October of 2018, so this is the Halloween episode. Each movie, each month, takes place during the holiday of that month. Now, the overall premise is you have this hitman played by Tom Bateman, who kind of reminds me of like a young Tom Hardy type character. Like if you take Tom Hardy in Inception or something, just this well-dressed, handsome, a British a hitman. He has this body that's completely wrapped up. He's trying to dispose of it. He has 4 hours to dispose of it. He's spotted by this group of friends who say, hey, you got to come to this party. It's going to be awesome. Also, because our friend there that puts on this party, we really want to one-up him. I don't know why I struggled to think of that. And there's all these cops around, so he kind of figures, sure, that sounds like a good idea. And everyone thinks that, and he's got blood on his face, they think it's just like this full package costume. And so I thought it was just going to be, okay, he's at this Halloween party, everyone thinks that this body is just part of his costume, and already get the idea he's just like really frustrated, has no patience, but he's going along with it because it's in his best interest. that's what I thought the whole movie was going to be, and it could have been a pretty interesting premise. Granted, we've seen stuff like that before, like different, but like a Weekend at Bernie's or something. But that is pretty much abandoned, like halfway through. We see that Ray Santiago as Jack. He's this rich, a trust fund kid that throws on this huge party at his mansion or whatever. Gets wheeled in like Hannibal Lecter, which I thought was kind of cool. So the girl from Truth or Dare who plays Dorothy, the David Hull's character who kind of looks like Seth MacFarlane. He's kind of a Seth MacFarlane type character. Ray Santiago, uh, Rebecca Rittenhouse, and then this other guy. They all want to party with Wilkes, the hitman, so much. They go into this room, and then this is when he turns on everyone. He kills one of them. He goes on this huge monologue about how killing people was in our nature. We've something about adapting into the insane world or the sane world. This huge bit about life and death and killing and how we've gone from one idea of killing to this other modern society. Kills one of the members, but this is right when they figure out that the body is a real body. And I think some of the humor lies in just how clueless these people are. Like, even the feet are kind of twitching, and they're like, whoa, animatronics, neat. So he tells Pablo, I'm just going to keep calling him Pablo, to like kick it, jump on it, and he does, snaps the neck. That's when they figure out it's real. And a lot of the outside characters are really stupid. There's even a cop that gets involved who's incredibly dumb, even by horror movie standards. And eventually what happens is the guy, what was David Hull's the character's name? Alan. So Dorothy, Alan, and Pablo, the lights go out because it's like a rigged escape room. But they take the body with them, thinking they could get some sort of reward or something. And so then Wilkes and Rebecca Rittenhouse, whose character is Maggie, she's like this computer whiz that wants to help him find the body. And so that's when you get the rest of the movie. Just these three characters providing the comedy, running into problems as they're trying to find a way to get help for the body or dispose the body, and then Wilkes and Maggie trying to find them. And that's kind of where my problem lies, because on one hand, I do kind of wish it stuck with the premise of just being at this Halloween party, this guy that has a real body but no one picks up on it. And then the whole thing of these characters stealing a body from a killer who needs it back, that could have worked as a whole other premise in a whole other movie. But the tone, the comedy worked for me because it was really limited to those three characters. The comedy didn't interfere with the hitman or anything like that. But the half with the hitman really, because it tries to introduce this romance plot where Maggie's like intrigued and in love with him, but he's totally cold and distant, but slowly starts to warm up to her. And I just kind of found myself wishing it stuck with the original premise. Now, on one hand, I did enjoy the scenes with the other three characters because I thought they all worked very well together. I thought all three of them were very funny, especially Santiago doing his Pablo thing. I thought that really worked. And my issue with that is that it shouldn't have taken away from Wilkes. It shouldn't have taken away from the hitman. Even though Tom Bateman is having fun in the role, playing this stone face, just ice cold killer, you can tell he's definitely having fun with that role. And every time they find one avenue of help, it gets messed up, and then they gotta find another, leading up to this showdown at a mortuary. Tries to have a twist that I don't really think works, and ultimately, the biggest thing that I said for Flesh and Blood, and what I will say for Delivered, before I ever get to that, is there really wasn't enough to, warrant an 80-minute runtime. I do think that, regardless of how you look at it, someone at a party with a body that people think is a costume, or where a group of friends steal a body from someone and he has to get it back, you can make two separate films out of that. Either way, both of them really only warrants like a half hour, 45 minutes. Or maybe an hour. Certainly a shorter anthology. Like, both of those ideas sound like a Tales from the Crypt type episode. It does have like a Tales from the Crypt type ending, which is hit or miss. I would have rather it didn't end that way, but it's definitely not bad. It was certainly entertaining enough to not make the hour 20 whatever minute runtime boring. But after a while, the whole thing with the body kind of takes a back seat, and it really is just about the comedy and the relationship between these three characters and these two characters. The frustration of these three trying to work together and the romance between these two. And there's not a whole lot to say about it, really. I mean, it was definitely entertaining enough, but there wasn't enough about the cinematography or editing to really mention. But I don't know if there ever will be in any of these movies, but as much as I like the idea of either one, again, whether it be at a party or people stealing the body, I do think they could have been two separate ideas for shorter anthology stories. And actually, the half with the hitman, despite Tom Bateman's performance, that was the boring half. And what really kept the other half going was the comedy. I thought all three of them were funny enough and worked well enough together. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot to say. I did start watching Puka last night, but I saw that would be a really good thing to watch for Christmas, because I think I only did like 3 Christmas reviews last year. So I'm going to save Puka for December, but there's plenty of other ones for me to get to. So I will do Delivered at some point. I do want to see the one Pure. There's Treehouse. There's Down, one that's in an elevator. There's a whole bunch that I'll be getting to. I don't know if I'm going to do all of them, like all 2 seasons, which is 24 films, but I certainly will do a number of them. But so yeah, The Body, I didn't like it as much as Flesh and Blood. Might even say I didn't like it as much as Delivered, even though I like the premise more so than Delivered. But I feel like none of them really warranted its runtime. So far, Delivered probably did the best with its runtime and trying to fill that gap. But so far, I think this one did suffer the most. So this is the first episode of Hulu's Into the Dark, produced by Jason Blum. Not bad. I can see it being a promising first episode. So stay tuned for more, and thank you for watching.